Welcome to the Rapport Advantage podcast, transforming the way leaders communicate. Here's your host, human behavior expert and professional speaker, Alex Swire-Clark.
Welcome to the show, everyone who's out there listening on the interwebs and on your personal device of choice, be it Android, iPhone, Apple Podcasts. Who the heck knows where you're listening, but thanks for listening. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Hey, and Liz is listening too because she knew that I'd paused momentarily.
Yes, that's right. I knew it was my time to talk.
That's right. We have that little thing going on where we... And then you fill in the blanks. So that's always good. Welcome to the show. Great to have you guys with us. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, stop. Go back and listen to episodes 2 through 6. They are the foundational knowledge for DISC, giving you some history, and then a deep dive into the D, I, S, and C profiles and what you can expect from those. If you have listened to our podcast before, you know that we're all about helping you break down the walls of miscommunication, increasing your emotional intelligence, and building better relationships in the workplace and beyond. I am Alex Swire-Clark. I am a CEO. Oh, and well, yes. And,
I'm sorry. I was ready
and she's
to talk.
Liz, and we're here. And we don't need any more intros. No, seriously. I'm a CEO, a speaker, an emotional intelligence expert. Liz is a certified behavioral analyst. She does job benchmarking, and she is a fabulous strategic growth consultant. I'm not going to let her talk because she interrupted me. Bad, Liz. Bad. No. Stay on that side of the microphone. Anyway. That was fun. This show is all about you. Give us your input and feedback. You can find us on Facebook at the Rapport Advantage Podcast, on Twitter at Rapport Podcast, and visit the website at rapportadvantage.com. Today's show topic, eyes, perceptions under stress. This is the second of our 4-part series. We like to do a lot of these 4-part series where we talk about the D's and the I's and the S's and C's and a specific characteristic. And this time we're talking about how perceptions are when they are under stress. So we begin these by talking about how a style sees themselves. For eyes usually see themselves as being quite a few different things. Number one is they see themselves as being outgoing. We've never met a stranger. Talk to a stop sign, lean on the fence post, and talk to the little butterfly that lands there. That's who we are. We're all about being enthusiastic, high energy, a lot of comings and goings, but we're always, positive attitude.
Woo!
That's us. Something happens.
Oh yeah,
we're in there. Okay,
And we're also charming.
Oh,
we are so adorable from that standpoint. Charming and inspiring. We're all about just making sure we can persuade and get people all excited about things. So we really do like to kind of carry that essence with us. And
to finalize this whole thing, we're optimistic. We are always that glass half full people, always looking for the best in others, looking for the best of the situation. Oh, it's going to be fine. We'll just keep staying the course. It's going to be great. So that optimism always on display.
And I just want to jump in there quick just to say that, again, keep in mind that we approach all of our interactions with that in our mind. So no matter what might come after this conversation right now, we are in our heads believing those are the people we are.
That's right. No matter what state we're in, those are our self-perceptions.
Yes.
All right. Now, when pressure comes on, little drama happens, that tension happens, we get fatigued or we get stressed. Others can see eyes as being self-promoting. Self-promoting. In other words, my idea is the best.
Yes.
Dang it. You got me. As we are self-promoting because, again, we're trying to inspire others. We're trying to influence others. That's one of our characteristics that we normally show as eyes. We're going to say, oh, I got this. I can do it. And they self-promote their ideas, their talents, those kinds of things to try to persuade someone to agree with them or to motivate others to do something.
Yes. And I've got this second one is one that I really love talking about. The fact is it's not a positive trait, but I always find I fall into this trap, and that's being glib. And glib is kind of an odd word to use. So the definition of it is actually insincere and shallow, but I consider it also as being a smart aleck. It's one of those situations where because we all want the attention all the time, we're going to make some comment as quick as a button to get the attention back on us. And that tends to be an insincere and shallow comment. So just be aware that we can fall into that trap of being glib because we're trying to get the focus back on us.
No.
We never do that, Liz, ever. We're never sarcastic. You little... Yeah, that never happens to us. So, yes, we are quick thinkers as eyes. And so one of the problems, and it's kind of a curse and a blessing, is that we are quick thinkers. And so we can have an immediate response to things. We think well on our feet. So it's great in sales and things like that. However, there is that 1.23% of the time where that thing that comes out, oh dear, what did I just say? Oops. And then we've got that insert foot in mouth effect that happens. So when we talk about those scenarios, yeah, we can be a little bit without thinking through. And so from that insincere, shallow part of the glib process, we're kind of going back to the fact that we don't process that information all the way through to gather our thoughts. We just kind of spit it out, the first thing that comes to our mind.
And Alex, one of the other things that you find this out about yourself as you go through life, but here I am just kind of still learning things about that. And when we're in difficult situations, high eyes are, and it gets uncomfortable, that's when we actually will start to throw some of that out, because we want to take that tension out of the atmosphere, because we want everybody happy.
That's right. We're promoting that happiness. Mm-hmm. And again, we go back to our third term here in this under moderate pressure. We can be seen as overly optimistic. So not only are we just regular optimistic, we're overly optimistic. So it's like, oh, we can make it another 3 miles. But Daddy, we've been driving 12 straight hours without a potty break. Oh, we can do it. It'll be fine. Just, hold on. Just hold on. We can make it. And so, that tends to happen on those family car trips. But yes, we're overly optimistic about the people we hire, about the processes we put in place, about the sales goals, overly optimistic about that. Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And kind of almost that head in the sand type of mentality.
Oh my gosh. And that follows so clearly with being unrealistic, because when we're overly optimistic and we think everything can happen, we become very unrealistic on our expectations. And you look at this and you go, really? Am I really that, unrealistic about it? But in that whole self-perception and our optimism, and we're trying to be really good about this, we do show up as being so unrealistic. People are like, what planet do you live on that you think you can get this done in that time frame?
It goes back to our summits that used to help us facilitate as a company. When I would come in and I didn't want to have to run it, I wanted to be a participator. And so Liz would come in and do a beautiful job of facilitating. And she and I were working on the calendar. And so here are the activities I want to do. And she's like, Alex, you did a great job of putting this all down to the minute, but you know that there's no way, not a happening chance that it's going to go the way that you think. This activity you've got for 12 minutes, that's going to be a minimum 30. Come on. Seriously? And so the first year we did that, it was, all right, guys, we got 12 minutes to do this. And yes. So the agenda was wrecked. We got about half of the things we needed to get done over a 2-day facilitation workshop, but Liz kept us on task. And then 2.0 version of that the next year was
a little better,
much more realistic.
We still end up, even the optimistic side of me always was still going, in 30 minutes we can get it done, and it still takes 45, right? So
that's right, because we have a lot of high C, high S folks on our leadership team who want to take it a little bit slower. We can get it done. We got to be realistic about what's going on.
Yeah.
So when we move to that extreme pressure situation or extreme stress or extreme fatigue, if someone's been up for 36 straight hours or what have you, others may see us as being overly confident. So we get back to that really hyper confident, I've done this before, I've got it. And so you don't get into that D mode of anger, but it's just a matter of, I know I've got this. I know I've got this. And so there's not a lot of rationale behind the I've got this, but they just keep pushing that thought like,
yes,
we can do it.
Yes.
I know we can.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
And it's like, dude, where's the facts to back up your argument?
Yeah, no substance at all behind that, but we do believe we can do that. And when we do that, we are becoming very talkative. So we figure we can talk something to death. It's one of those where, as you think about a situation, and when we get more tired and more stressed, we're thinking, as long as we talk them down or talk them up, it doesn't matter what we're saying, we're going to get to the point eventually. But most of us fall into that as we're trying to be charming and persuasive. We're not making any substantial points to it. We're just talking. And it is just...
Yes, we are the human filibuster. We just keep going and going and going and going. And what was the point of that? I'm not sure, but I'm still going. I've got points 3 through 7 to make, and we're going and we're going.
That's great.
Yes. So that generates number 3 out of this equation, and that is being a poor listener. And so because we're talking, I didn't even take a breath there. We could do that all day long. But God gave us, one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. So we should have stopped, dropped, and rolled and listened to others. But when we get in that situation, that whole poor listener thing comes in. We hear the general first part of what's being said, and then we kind of ignore the details. This happens a lot in my relationship with my wife. I'm fatigued, and she's trying to have a conversation at the end of the day when I'm really tired, and we're talking about important things because that's really the only time we get to have that conversation. It might be about tomorrow's schedule. It might be about getting the kids to their music lessons this week and who's taking who where and whatnot. And so I'll be listening, and it's not that I don't want to. I mean, I'm trying to listen, but I miss a lot of those important details. And so we get to the next day. It's 3:30. I've got a kid across town, and she's like, "Where are you?" Well, I'm supposed to take Emma to a voice lesson. No. That's at 5. We've got the flute lesson at 4, and you're supposed to meet me at the flute lesson by 4:45 to take her then over to. Oh no! So then I'm going to back up, and I'm going across town, and I'm going through traffic, and it's a nightmare. So be aware that those high I's can seem, and sometimes actually are, going to be poor listeners when they're under that extreme pressure. They're going to get 2 to 3 of the 4 things that you say, and that's probably where it's going to end.
And if I can just kind of land on that a little bit longer, just to have people understand that when you are talking to a high I, because it is usually all about us, when they say something, it links us, how we're that glib personality. It kind of takes us into this other world where it's like another thing about us that we want to share. And so we're thinking about how we could share this thing. And that's what requires us being that poor listener too. We just go off into our own little world, and it's about us.
It is, and not even under pressure, but just under normal circumstances. My company has developed a policy that says if you want Alex's attention on an email, in the subject line, you put ** Alex in uppercase letters ***. So that's always in the subject line. If it's something that I really need to address right away, then I know that that's my flag to not ignore. Everything else that comes through that I'm copied on, I'm copied on. Well, I really don't need to know about it because people are just making sure that I see it, and I don't need to really comment. But when people need to comment, from me, **, Alex, all caps, **, in the subject line, I'm like, oh, okay, this is for me. Woo! And then I can go in.
That is great, Alex. You've all figured out how to make a best practice out of that.
Indeed. And it works well because I do respond. And so, did you get my email? That question doesn't really come up anymore because I've got the email with my little, oh yes, this is one of those Alex ones. I've got to actually make a decision as a CEO or implement a process or follow up with something, something that's going to be non-I that I probably don't want to do. It is what it is, but that's how we kind of work through that. And that's something that people do. It's 8 keystrokes. And that means that they know they have accountability with that because they're sending it directly to me with that process. So
wow. Well, the last one that's on our list when you're under extreme pressure is self-promoter. And we talked about this just a minute ago when you're under moderate pressure. So what it really means is this shows up routinely. It is all about us. And we will be talking about our things, our needs. If you get 2 eyes together, then it becomes even more interesting because they're promoting themselves, talking about themselves, not even having a conversation, although they're both talking. So we just have to be careful to be aware that we'll fall into that trap and people don't care to hear that much about us, even though we believe they should.
That's right. That's right. And sometimes when I'm going through those list of I words with corporations and clients about those characteristics of I's, and we use I words to describe them, I think sometimes we can use the word inward because instead of not thinking inwardly, but the conversation always directs back to us. So it's always coming back to us instead of projecting out and asking other questions like a high S is naturally gifted at. We always, as soon as Liz says, hey, I was on the Clemson campus last week. Oh, you were? Oh, I was there last week too. And so it's always about not the one-upsmanship, but just relating it back to something I've done or seen or said or heard or eaten.
to make it about us.
That's right.
Each
And
of
then we
us.
can just promote ourselves. And look at me. I was at Clemson University. I got a master's.
Man, I think about this, Alex. Now we go through this. I'm feeling kind of sorry for the D's and the S's and the C's when they have to work for us. Although, work with us even. It's just, we do love ourselves.
There's no lack of self-love. That's true. But the great thing, Liz, is that we know how to adapt. And so we tailor our style to the environment that we're in. There are a lot of people that can't do that, or because they don't have that self-awareness, and of course they're not as experienced in it as we are. But we know how to read people and read the wants and needs of those folks a little bit better than most folks. So when we come into a situation, we see we clearly have a high C in the room. We know to tone it back. We're not telling those jokes. We're more serious, and that's a key to what we've been able to accomplish, in the business world and be successful, is adapting where we are to who we're working with.
That's exactly right. So I think it's time for a recap. You want to recap?
A little recap. So we're always going to be about us. We're optimistic and outgoing and enthusiastic from our self-perception point of view, inspiring and persuasive and optimistic, but put us under a little bit of stress. We get to be self-promoting, a little glib, overly optimistic and unrealistic, put us under a lot of pressure, and we go into hyper self-promotion, overly confident, really talkative, and we cut down the details on that listening side. So
nicely done.
be patient with us, please. That's going to do it for today's show. I'd like to thank Liz for joining us today. Liz, how can folks get in touch with you?
They can reach me at liz@ltresults.com or at my website at ltresults.com. And may I just say, we are adding the podcast feature to my website shortly. So you'll be able to get the podcast on mine with the rapportadvantage.com link to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then we can, obviously you can listen to those on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. So they're always available out there, but it's nice to have those linked up so that you can listen to them whenever and wherever. If you are interested in contacting us or getting more involved with the show, join our Facebook group. Head over to Facebook and search the Rapport Advantage Podcast. Our group will appear. Click to join. And we got some great questions over there. Get your feedback on some of the current issues in today's affairs. We try to stay away from politics over there. It's not a great place to be. So I just kind of stay out of that mode. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on emotional intelligence while we're there. On our next podcast, we'll be diving into looking at those S's and how they respond under stress. And so we will dive into the happy S's who are never stressed out. At least it never seems that they're stressed out.
You can't tell.
But on the inside, they're churning. They're churning. And so we'll be talking about those next time. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rapport Advantage podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation on Facebook at the Rapport Advantage and follow us on Twitter at Rapport Podcast.